There was a time when I thought learning English meant collecting thousands of words. I believed the more words I knew, the better I would speak. So every day, I memorized new vocabulary, filled notebooks, repeated sentences again and again. But when the real moment came to speak, my mind went completely blank. My heart would race, my hands would shake, and not a single word would come out. It was like all those words I had worked so hard to remember just disappeared into thin air. I felt trapped. I used to ask myself, why can't I speak? Why does my voice stop when my heart wants to say so much? I knew thousands of words, yet I couldn't have a simple conversation. That's when I realized something. I had fallen into what I now call the 300-word trap. You see, most of us think fluency comes from knowing many words. But it doesn't. Fluency comes from using simple words naturally, without fear, without hesitation. You can know 10,000 words and still sound broken. But if you can use 300 words with confidence, you can connect with anyone. I remember a student I once met, Maria from Spain. She studied English for 8 years. She could write beautiful essays, she could read novels, she knew difficult words like comprehend and elaborate. But when she met a native speaker, she froze. Her eyes would widen, her smile would fade, and silence took over. She looked at me with the same fear I used to feel, that heavy feeling of failure after years of trying. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her silence in my mind. It was like looking into a mirror of my past. I thought, how can someone study so much and still feel lost? And then it hit me, we study English like we study history. We memorize it, but we never live it. We collect words, but never use them to connect with real people. So, I made a promise to myself. No more memorizing words for the sake of it. No more chasing complexity. I was done trying to sound smart, I wanted to sound real. I picked a small list of words I used every day, words like go, come, want, need, get, make, see. They were simple, but powerful. Then, I read a study that completely changed my view. It said native speakers use about 1,000 to 2,500 words in their daily life, and the top 300 words cover around 65% of all spoken English. I was shocked. Only 300 words, and you could express nearly everything. That moment changed everything for me. I stopped studying English like a subject. I started using it like a tool, to think, to feel, to live. Every sentence I spoke came from those 300 words. And slowly, something incredible happened. My fear disappeared. Sentences started to flow naturally. I didn't need to translate anymore. I could just speak. That's when I understood. Simple words carry deep power. Take one simple word, get. Such a small word, but it can build endless expressions. Get up, get ready, get better, get started. Just one word, but infinite possibilities. The more I practiced, the freer I felt. The more I spoke simply, the more people understood me. I didn't need to impress anyone. I needed to express myself. So if you've been struggling like I did, stop chasing big words. Start using small ones. Stop trying to sound perfect. Start sounding true. Because English isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And connection starts with simplicity. In the next part, I'll show you exactly how I practiced those 300 words, how they became part of my thoughts, and how you can make them a natural part of your voice, the voice that's already waiting inside you to be heard. When I first began practicing those 300 words, I didn't realize how powerful it would feel to simplify. Every morning, I would sit by my window with a notebook and a cup of coffee, watching the sunlight slowly fill the room. I chose 5 words each day, just 5, and I built my world around them. For example, one morning I picked the words go, come, see, make, feel. I wrote small sentences. I go to work. I come home. I see my family. I make dinner. I feel happy. It sounded almost like a child's diary, simple, raw, honest. But the more I said those sentences aloud, the more natural they felt. I could feel my tongue relax, my confidence grow. Those small sentences were building my fluency, brick by brick. And that's when I realized something most learners never see. Fluency isn't speed. It's comfort. It's the ability to speak without fear, to express even the smallest thoughts without searching for perfect words. I remember recording my voice for the first time. I said, "Hello, my name is Alex. Today, I want to tell you about my morning." My voice trembled. I sounded unsure, even awkward. But instead of judging myself, I listened. I listened to my pauses, to my mistakes, to the way my emotion dropped halfway through. And then, I tried again. Day after day, I recorded myself. I watched how my tone changed, how my pauses became smoother, how my voice gained strength. Each time I hit record, it was like looking into a mirror. Not to criticize, but to grow. I started noticing a strange thing. The simpler my words, the more confident I felt. I didn't have to chase after perfect vocabulary or long expressions. I could just be me. I could speak the way I thought, direct, natural, human. That's the magic of simple words. They give you freedom. When you stop worrying about what word to use next, your heart finally has room to speak. I used to think that English was only for the smart, the talented, the gifted. But I was wrong. English is not about talent, it's about repetition. Every time you repeat, you get better. Every time you speak, even if you make mistakes, you grow. There were days when I felt tired. Days when I doubted myself. I thought, maybe this isn't working. Maybe I'll never sound fluent. But then I remembered why I started, not to impress people, but to connect with them. To be able to share my story, my dreams, my thoughts. And slowly, that fear turned into excitement. When someone spoke to me in English, I didn't freeze anymore. I smiled. I responded. I wasn't perfect, but I was real. That's when it clicked. Fluency isn't perfection. Fluency is expression. It's the courage to speak, even when your voice shakes. You see, we don't need big words to sound powerful. We need truth, emotion, intention. When your words come from the heart, even the simplest ones can move people. So if you're watching this, and you've been afraid to speak, start today. Don't wait for the perfect word. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take one word, one sentence, one small step. Because every step forward counts. Every time you speak, you break one more chain of fear. In the next part, I'll show you how I transformed these 300 words into real conversations, how I went from practicing alone to speaking freely with confidence and joy. When I finally started using those 300 words in real conversations, everything changed. I still remember the first time I spoke to a native English speaker without fear. My hands were shaking, my voice was soft, but for the first time, I didn't overthink. I just spoke. Simple words. Real emotion. Honest connection. The person smiled, nodded, and replied. I understood almost everything. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in that small moment, I felt something I had been chasing for years. Freedom. You see, freedom in language isn't about knowing everything. It's about being yourself in another language. I realized that the power of communication doesn't come from big vocabulary. It comes from clarity, from confidence, from courage. I started talking more. At the cafe, on the bus, online. Each time, I used the same basic words. I made mistakes, yes, but I learned faster than ever before. Because when you stop fearing mistakes, every conversation becomes a classroom. There was a woman named Sarah I met during a trip. She asked me, "So, Alex, how long have you been learning English?" I smiled and said, "Maybe my whole life, but only recently I started speaking it." She laughed and said, "That's the difference, isn't it?" And she was right. We learn for years, but we forget to live the language. I began journaling every night, not in perfect grammar, not with fancy words, just how I felt. Today, I was happy. I met someone kind. I learned a new sentence. Slowly, English stopped being a subject. It became my second skin. And with every passing day, those 300 words didn't feel like limits anymore. They felt like keys. Keys that opened new doors of understanding, expression, and confidence. People started asking me, "Alex, how did you become so fluent?" And I told them the truth. I stopped learning English like a student. I started living it like a human. Fluency isn't about how many words you know. It's about how deeply you use them. You can spend years memorizing, or you can spend months practicing. The choice is yours. Let me tell you something important. When you speak from the heart, even broken English sounds beautiful. People don't connect with your grammar. They connect with your energy, your tone, your truth. So, speak, even when your voice shakes. Right. Even when your words feel small. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because every word you say with courage carries power. Power to inspire. Power to connect. Power to change your life. And maybe one day you'll look back, just like I do now, and realize that all you ever needed were those 300 simple words. The 300 words that didn't just teach me English. They taught me life. Thank you. My name is Alex, and this is my story.